to get going here. We are leading up to the big match between, of course, the St. Louis Chess Club and the San Francisco Mechanics. This is going to be a crazy 20-on-20 match. It looks like the stream is just getting set up here, and we are officially live. Okay. So, of course, this is going to be a match between the St. Louis Chess Club and a lot of local St. Louis players, a lot of local kids, a lot of local, just regular old players are going to be taking on, like I said, the Mechanics Chess Club, all the way from San Francisco. So it looks like we have just about 5 minutes here till we get underway. In those 5 minutes, we're just going to hang out a little bit, let the people come in, get ready for the big match. Let's see if I can pull up our roster here and see who we've got in this match. I'm just going to do so right here. So, of course, we've had a couple last-minute substitutions just to throw our opponents off a little bit and to make things a little bit more interesting. But more or less the breakdown is we've got Aaron Grabinsky from the Webster team, as well as the one and only Justus Williams on our team, along with Julian Proleiko, FIDE Master Thalia Cervantes. Those are more or less our top-rated players. A lot of title players. Aaron, a great international master. Justus, a FIDE master. Thalia, also a FIDE master. Julian, a super strong national master. Pro Chess League hero for the St. Louis Archbishops. Meanwhile, the Mechanics have a bunch of people nobody cares about. Other famous faces on the St. Louis team include Jonathan Schrantz, Danny Machuca, the man in the shadows, running a lot of these videos, running a lot of these shows, Danny. We also have the one and only Ben Simon on the St. Louis team. You may know Ben from the numerous live streams and productions that he takes part in. We also have St. Louis player Doug Eckert on the team. Can't forget Doug Eckert. Just went over some of his games, or well, rather one of his games in my class. Doug, a very strong FIDE master, a U.S. championship player in the past, is on our team. We also have other famous people. Arjun, everybody knows Arjun. Everybody knows Rachael, the youngsters in St. Louis, the future of chess here in St. Louis, that are definitely making some waves as they get a little older and a lot better at chess. Every year they seem to be improving. We also have a ton of youngsters from our select chess program, including Felix, Vinny, Araja, Alex, Shengxi, Aaron, and I think that's it from our select chess program. We also have Isabel playing for us. We have Nishal, chess club employee Nishal playing for us. We also have, let's see, not Eric Kachenko. Eric dipped out on us, if you could believe it. Instead of Eric, we have, I have the last second replacement here as well. Oh my gosh, so much going on. Our last second replacement for Eric is, of course, Luke Yi. Luke Yi, one of the strongest players in the Select Chess program. Going for that National Master title is Luke, and he's on our team here tonight. We also have, standing in for Chess Club employee Nick Risco, we have Jacob Sanders taking his place. Jacob, a strong local youngster himself, also, I believe, does some Twitch streaming, and that more or less rounds out our team of 20 players. I think I mentioned everybody. We've got them all in here. We've got them all. So it's going to be really tough for San Francisco to take us all out. We'll do a quick run around all of the boards, giving everybody that quick shout out as we get going. We see Jacob here in the chat. Alexi, also a guy from the St. Louis area who teaches a lot of these youngsters chess. So he'll be cheering on, I'm sure, one or two of his students in this match as we get ready to get underway. Looks like we have 1 minute to the start time. Just 1 minute until we get going, until we get underway for this big match. Okay. And trying to keep track of all these people, it looks like our number one player here is Aaron Grabinsky, also known as Sketchy Moves. Number 2, J. Wills, that is Justus Williams. Number 3 is Julian, and number 4 is Jonathan Schrantz. Everybody knows Jonathan Schrantz, head of the video department and board 4 for us in this matchup. If you do care to know about some of the opponents, we're facing off Eric Lee on board 1, who is 2369 USCF. On board 2 for them is Natrost, who is Natalia Tsodikova, something like that. Number 3 seems to be Ruiyang. Number 4, meanwhile, is Josiah Stearman. So a lot of strong players on the San Francisco. And 3, 2, 1, 0. The match is officially started. So why don't we take a quick look at some of these games, if it'll let me pull it up here. So here we have, I see a problem in my streaming abilities. So I've set this up to only be for one board. So we'll look at just one board at a time, perhaps. Of course, we have here on board 1, Aaron Grabinsky taking on Eric Lee. And this is our top board in the entire match. International Master Eric Grabinsky, of course, Webster student, taking on Webkins here, otherwise known as Eric Lee. On board 2, we have Justus Williams. Justus Williams taking on Natrost. Board 3, we have Julian Proleiko. Board 4, Jonathan Schrantz. Board 5 seems to be chess-playing wolf, otherwise known as Danny Machuca. Board 6, Dishonor on Your Cow, is Thalia Cervantes. Board 7 is Tau Puri, which I believe is the account Arjun is playing on. Board 8, Luke Yi, 2008. Board 9, Wolf Team 2018. That has got to be Jacob Sanders, I think. I don't know for certain. Another last second. No, that is Rachael. That is Rachael Lee. That is Rachael. This just in, that is Rachael. Board 9, I believe, if I haven't lost track, is Chess Fans 2019, otherwise known as Shang-Chi. Shang-Chi on board 19. Board 20, that's gotta be Aaron Lin. That is Aaron. Board 11, I've lost track. We've got Vinny. We've got Doug Eckert all the way down here with a 1588 rating. Doug wanted me to inform you all his chess.com rapid rating is from his wife playing on his account. Important that this information goes out. Next up, we have Nishal, then we have Jacob Sanders, then we have Chess World Scientist, who is also known as Araja, and then we have Moving Hoax, who is, oh my gosh, this is so much. Felix, we've got Felix there, we've got Cupcake246, Cupcake, of course, is Isabel, and rounding out the team is the one and only Ben Simon. But why don't we stick with just a couple games for the moment? Let's take a look at Aaron Grabinsky's position here against Webkins. Aaron, of course, is our board 1, as I've been saying. And what's going on in this position? Well, it looks like he's got the white pieces here. And he's got a little bit of advantage in space. If I can just back up through this game, it looks like it was a close Sicilian. Cycling through here. Well, not quite a close Sicilian. And e4 and f4 take some of these central squares. Aaron chooses to fianchetto this dark squared bishop and goes for bishop c4. And this is our current position. Okay, so the theme of this game is going to be all about piece activity. The center is semi-open, which means you're not going to see a ton of closed center type of pawn storms that you would normally see. Here, both sides are just going to look to get their pieces active and get into the game. This bishop on b2 is already a stellar piece for Aaron, looking on this long diagonal. Right now, we do have some tension between these bishops. Aaron chooses to play bishop b5 rather than take on e6. Taking on e6 does double the black pawns, but it would open up this rook on the f-file, as well as control a lot of key squares here in the center. So bishop b5 instead kind of sidesteps that. Look for Aaron to develop this knight out to f3 and make a decision on what to do with this king. It's a little bit unclear. So first team to 20.5 wins. It is, of course, a 2-round match. So the players will play once, and then they'll rematch with the opposite colors. And black has just broken with the move d5. So this is a really critical moment here for Aaron. Black is trying to break free with d5, trying to open up the center, trying to get all of his pieces into the game. So how Aaron responds to this is going to dictate the rest of the game. He could play a move like e5, which locks down the center a little bit, but then black is going to be able to play moves like knight e4, taking control of this central square. And I'm not sure it's my favorite for white, although I don't see what else he can really do. He's a little bit stuck because these pieces on the king's side aren't really in the game just yet, and this king is still stuck in the center. So he does take on d5. Now I was just expecting a simple knight takes d5 from black, and from there, I was thinking black might be able to make use of this diagonal in some way to get at this king. A little bit of a risky play from Aaron here. I'm not sure if this is my favorite position I've ever seen him get. Yeah, and actually there's this move, bishop f5, that you might have to look out for as well, looking at the c2 pawn. So I'm not convinced Aaron is doing well. We'll jump back to this game momentarily, but let's instead jump over to Justus Williams on board 2. Justus, of course, has the black pieces here, if I can flip the board. He's playing against Natrost, who, according to my sheet, is Natalia Tsodikova, who is a 2181 USCF player, and he's got black here. But what's going on? It looks like his position does not have too many problems at all. This is the type of opening where black plays somewhat conservatively by not going for too much directly in the center, just playing solidly, not making any weaknesses. The downside for black here is this bishop slightly stuck on this d7 square, but if black can find a way to activate this bishop, I think black has absolutely no problems at all. There was just an exchange on e5, and what this means is that I think black has already found his path to improving this bishop. Expect to see moves like bishop c6 to follow, with the idea of going for this d4 break. This is how black can activate the pieces. So of course we see bishop e3 now from white. This is aimed at making d4 a little bit harder to play. So both players now, it's all about the d4 square. If black can play d4, black frees all of his pieces and will be doing quite well. If white can prevent d4, well, there's going to be this nagging problem of this bishop on c6 that you're going to have to look out for with the black pieces. How do you activate this bishop? It's not super clear. And that's what Justus is thinking about right now. So if I'm in his shoes, I'm finding any way I can to get this bishop into the game. Right now, there's this threat to our bishop in the way. So what can we do about it? Let's pause and think for a moment. The move queen b6 does come to mind with the idea of snapping off this bishop on e3 and putting some pressure on b6. If you play a move like b6, this was kind of the most natural move that I could think of, but then you might get met with the move bishop d4. And what white does with this move is really solidly plants this bishop on the square where you want to move your pawn, and it's going to be extremely difficult to get the move d4 in if that's how this game develops. In the meantime, I guess I do like this move, queen b6. I also like an idea, a simple rook c8 just gets this rook into the game. You could consider castling here with black, but I might want to hold off another turn or two before I end up doing that. In the meantime, moves like a6 and b5 can also be considered, but he does go for my main choice, which is queen b6. Like I said, it's all about this d4 square, and so Justus is looking to just directly take control of it here. And I'm interested to see how Natalia actually wants to respond to this. I think, yeah, so we do see a trade, and now I wouldn't be surprised if we actually saw queen e3, directly stopping d4. But now, knight d2 is actually a pretty clever way to do it. I missed this idea. Now, knight b3 is the idea in response to d4, so we still cannot play it just yet. That's pretty clever by Natalia. So instead, we see knight c6. Once again, I'm not lying to you guys. It's a battle for the d4 square here. So, Justus brings in the knight. Okay, let's see what Natalia is going to do about that. The move knight b3 doesn't strike me as correct here. b3 isn't really a great square for the knight. White could consider queen e3, but with the queens off the board, white's pressure actually lessens quite a bit. If white can't get at the king somehow, then white is simply kind of playing for nothing. So the move queen e3 probably won't be played. Knight f3 might come on the board, but then the danger is, can black just play d4 immediately? And I think he can, which is why Natalia is probably taking some time here. I quite like Justus's position. I'm not sure what white can do to prevent this idea of d4, and as such, I think he's going to be doing quite well. Why don't we check back in on a different game? So yeah, we do see rook d1. Before I step away, I just want to see if I'm correct. I want to see if Justus goes for this idea of d4. I think he can play it now. There is some awkwardness with this rook being here. The line would probably go d4, knight b3, queen b6, takes on d4, takes on d4, takes on d4, takes on d4. And then maybe this bishop b5 move is actually going to be a problem here. So it looks like d4 can't be played just yet. That's pretty clever, once again, by Natalia. She's coming up with these clever ways to make d4 unplayable. It's all about this move. So if you didn't see, the tactic I'm talking about ends with the move bishop b5, which hits the queen and indirectly hits this bishop on d7. So d4, not yet playable for black. That's why we see the move queen b6 stepping out of this knight b3 tactic. But now, expect to see knight f3 from white, simply getting this knight into the game, guarding this d4 square. So it's all hanging in the balance on this square. So yeah, for those of you wondering where Dorse is, unfortunately, due to some concerns over the closeness of everybody in the studio, we are just having one commentator for the night, so you're stuck with me. So yeah, knight f3 does come on the board. And it's really a question of how can we get this d4 move in, and I'm not yet seeing it. Maybe it's going to be a tough one for Justus as well. Why don't we check out Julian Proleiko's game now? Stepping over here, we have Julian against JIJ 2018, which is Ruiyang for the San Francisco Mechanics. Rui is a 22-42 USCF player. Julian, of course, a strong national master and hero of the St. Louis Archbishops to give us the World Championship in 2018. So let's see what's going on here. It looks like Julian got here from a Rogozin. The opening went like this. Queen a4 check is the line chosen, and the simple bishop d2, white gets all the pieces out. Black breaks in the center with e5, and this is the position on the board. So the question now for white is, can white get some more active pieces? By breaking in the center with e5, black is hoping to solve all of the opening problems here by getting this bishop active, both bishops on long open diagonals, giving this knight squares as well, and taking away white's advanced central pawn on d4. So this is a critical move for Julian, which is why you see him pausing and taking so much time here, going into a little bit of a think while he decides what to do about this pawn on e5. There's a few options I can see for white. There's a tempting move in the move of queen b3 to put pressure on f7, but I think a simple move like queen f6 would keep things under control. He goes for this move, h4. Wow, so this is a highly tactical move. Julian is looking to kill his opponent. So if you do anything crazy like taking on d4, probably you're going to get met with sacrifices or the simple knight g5 immediately, with threats on both f7 and h7. Now g5 is played, but does that stop knight g5, or will Julian play it anyways? I think, unfortunately, it does successfully stop knight g5. If you go for this type of sacrifice, well, black's going to simply capture, white will capture back, and then e4 locks down this diagonal, crushes your hopes and dreams of playing queen h7. There is now a move to consider, though, in the move queen g6, going for threats on f7. Bishop e6 would probably be played in response, so I don't think this one quite does it either. So what can Julian do here? It's tough. Yeah, Ben Simon actually in the match here, we'll take a look at his game as well. But looking at this, I think black might just be equalizing. What you don't want to do here with white is try too hard to immediately win the game. That's a great way to find yourself overpressing and find yourself in a lot of trouble. So if I'm Julian, I'm now considering the simple takes on e5, takes on e5, and bishop c3. You open up the center, you get your pieces on active squares, and you don't go for too much, you just go for nice activity, a nice position, and go from there. You just play chess. You don't need to go for crazy sacrifices to end the game by any means at all. You just have to play good old-fashioned solid chess. So I like Julian's position, but I do want to mention I'm slightly concerned that he might go for a little bit too much here. You don't want to overpress. All right, let's check back in on our board one, Aaron Grabinsky, see what's going on here. It looks like Aaron's position has blown up in the center as well. So we last left off with this move d5. Aaron captured back on d5. I was mentioning I wasn't quite convinced Aaron's position was so great. These pieces on the king side were undeveloped, and I was a little bit worried that black could take advantage of this somehow by making use of this diagonal. The game continued with bishop f5 eyeing this c2 pawn. Aaron solved this with the move rook c1, but it does feel a little bit shaky. Now queen b6 comes on the board. And this is not a move I would have expected, and I slightly suspect this move is just incorrect. It's a little bit unnatural, putting this queen on b6. It's preparing to bring a rook perhaps to the d file, but it doesn't do much. You know what I mean? It just doesn't do much. And now if white's lucky, he'll hold on to this pawn for a little bit and manage to be a little bit annoying. Perhaps actually now I'm seeing black was going for some threats on c2, followed by a nice queen e3, but knight f3 was Aaron's simple response, and now after rook d8 and queen f2, we see a trade of queens. The c2 pawn falls off the board, but after bishop c4 and rook e1, I believe here Aaron has pretty much consolidated into a perfectly fine position. You see, after the queens get traded off, the white king has a lot less to worry about. The white pieces have successfully been brought into the game, and it's actually going to be black with some weaknesses to take a look at here. This d5 pawn doesn't yet seem to be falling off the board, although it does fall off the board, but now white is going to get this e7 pawn in exchange, and that's exactly what we see happen. Bishop takes h3 happens, but now, as we catch up to the live position, rook takes b7, and Aaron is now doing totally fine. I was a little bit worried about his position there for a while when he was so underdeveloped, but now he has this nice active rook on b7. His opponent has the bishop pair, but not a great way to make use of it just yet, and I think Aaron will be doing alright in this endgame. I will mention I do still slightly prefer the black pieces just due to this nice bishop pair and the openness around the white king, but I think white is doing okay. You might expect to see a little reroute of this bishop actually, back to a square like e3. This is the diagonal that Aaron needs to keep control of, otherwise this bishop might actually start to cause some problems for this king. So bishop g4 is probably aimed at preventing that idea by putting pressure on this knight. Now, what can Aaron do about this? Maybe he's in a little bit more trouble than I was giving him credit for. The move rook d3 might also be under consideration. If I'm Aaron, I'm probably playing the move rook c2 here, once again with the idea of rerouting this bishop. You need to get this bishop into the game, and you need to give this knight a little bit of mobility. Why not rook h1 instead of rook takes b7? That's a good question. Well, if rook h1, what would happen? You're attacking this bishop, and behind it, you're attacking this bishop. I imagine the move rook h5 is playable, but I'm trying to find if black has anything better. Okay, perhaps black does have something better upon second glance. If you play the move rook h1, I think you're going to get met with bishop f8, when you can still take this pawn, but now this bishop will simply move up to g4, as we saw in the game, and there's no real problems for black, and your rook doesn't actually belong on this h-file. Okay, bishop g4 is played in the game. Rook bc7 says Sai Krishna, but I don't fully understand the point of this move. I like rook c2. You really need to reroute this bishop to this diagonal. That's the critical diagonal for white here. If you keep control of this diagonal, you keep your king safe and you keep yourself in the game. Okay, he goes for rook c7 though. This is a little bit more active. This is playing to win, as we say. He's going after f7 and giving black concrete problems. So my way of playing was perhaps a little bit more passive. Aaron is throwing caution to the wind and just going after this black king. Sayakarsh says always play bishop f8. Ben Simon scores first blood. Oh boy, Ben Simon seems to have won his game on the 20th board against Star Serica, bringing the St. Louis team to a roaring start. He destroyed his opponent up a piece in this endgame, taking off these pawns, and with this, we go into an early lead. Also note that someone else has already won for St. Louis. That is Wolf Team 2018, who is the one and only Rachael Lee. Rachael, of course, the adorable killer chess player, on the St. Louis Archbishops. I guess she's getting less adorable as she gets older. She used to be an adorable little kid who would just be at the chess club having a fun time, but now she just beats everybody at chess and it's no fun. Okay, but she seems to have won her game as well against an international master. Wow. Against EC Winslow. Let me see who this is on the San Francisco team. EC Winslow. I'm looking for him here. It looks like Elliott Winslow. Is this true? Is he an international master? My goodness. 2278 USCF rating. Seems to be an IM. Goes down to Rachael, one of the top players in her age group. I don't remember exactly how old she is anymore, but I remember she was always right at the top of the list for her age group. Definitely someone you're going to want to keep an eye on as she gets a bit older. And this game just seemed to go her way. She goes after the king, knight h6, and bishop takes e6, and wow, this is just a devastating attack. This bishop not capturable due to tactics? Wait a second, I don't understand chess. This game's too complicated for me. Why didn't black take this bishop? I don't understand. I'm thinking about it. Hold on. Let me ask my good friend the chess engine. Queen f7 is the move, and if bishop... Oh, you can't move this bishop. Okay, queen f7 just destroys black here. Obviously, Rachael saw it, everybody saw it, besides perhaps Eric Winslow. So that's why rook f8, and now after rook g7 and rook takes c7, this game is just dead. Incredible play from Rachael. So we are up 2-0, as you can probably see on your screen there. Show us the whole game? Alright, I'll go through this one just for you guys. It started e4, c5, it was the Sicilian Najdorf, a6, bishop g5, e6 line, and now f4, queen f3. I don't know all the theory here, but Rachael takes off this knight, pushes g5, and goes for the throat, as you should do in the Najdorf. And wow, b4 was responded to with this move, f takes e6. This is crazy stuff. I'm not sure if this is totally theory or not, but wow, impressive stuff from Rachael. So black takes a knight, white takes a knight, and now the classic case of using your opponent's pawns against them. Rachael hides behind this pawn on b2 and is looking to kill the black king in the meantime. Knight f5, always a great move, and knight h6 is really, I think, the winning move here for Rachael, getting the attack through, breaking through on the king's side. Meanwhile, black's attack on the queen's side just seems meaningless. Yeah, we see the rerouting, and then rook g7. f5 was probably just a blunder, but even if black doesn't play f5 here, if you play some normal move like queen e5, rook takes f7 is coming on the board, and you're kind of just getting destroyed here. Okay, let's jump back to board 2, see how Justus Williams is doing here. Justus on board 2 has this position, and it's going to take my brain just a second here to catch up with what's going on. In the meantime, oh my gosh, in the meantime, we've won 2 more games. Wow. All right. First of all, let me say something reasonable about this position. I'm going to count the pawns. Seems to be 6 to 7. Justus is in fact down a pawn here, but with some pressure against this black king. I'm going to be honest with you here. I think I prefer black's position. Black is just up a pawn and seems to be doing all right. I think the moves like e5 and d4 are going to be in the future. Probably black doesn't want to rush these things though, and just play simple improving moves. Even g5 can come on the board when this rook is safe on f6 and guards all of black's weaknesses. So black's doing pretty well here, I think. Justus in a little bit of trouble. Rook g3, I imagine just g5 from black is going to be enough. The simple g5 is going to be enough here. And it's looking tough. The queen is actually a little bit trapped on g4. Okay, looking tough for Justus, but let's not dwell on that. Jonathan has won his game against the one and only Josiah Stearman. Let's take a look at this one, see how this came about. Looks like he's just up copious amounts of material here. It looks like this was some kind of French. It was a French Kia. Jonathan took some space with d4 in the opening. Let's just look from here. Rook b8, b5. Jonathan expands on the queen side. Meanwhile, Josiah expands on the king side. We see bishop b7. Bishop f4 hits the rook, so the rook moves. And now This is pretty instructive from Jonathan. You move the pieces away from the king's side, so you don't want your opponent to actually expand with tempo. You want to get them kind of out of the way so that these pawn pushes aren't coming with threats to your pieces. Now, e5 from Josiah might be a little bit too ambitious here, taking all this central space, but giving up this d5 square, which Jonathan uses to great effect here. The bishop drops back to d2, but now c4, and it seems to be Jonathan whose pawn breaks are a little bit more relevant here. Queen f2, but we take on d3. Now after knight b4, the white queen side seems to be collapsing. Josiah tried breaking out with f6, but Jonathan simply takes this free pawn. Queen h4 is putting on some pressure, but now knight takes e5, and the white position seems to be crumbling. And now it's pretty much checkmate or bust for white, and it looks like white ended up with bust. Rook f6 is a clever move, tempting black to take this piece, but of course Jonathan ignores it, plays the move knight d5 instead, and now it's just dead lost. We see a trade and another trade. Queen takes is a little bit strange. I'm not sure why white was so happy to trade queens here, because now after another trade, this is simply busted, and Jonathan easily wins his game. The score is now 4-1. It looks like the mechanics seem to have won on some other board. In the meantime, who else won? Who else won for us? Oh no, Nishal lost his game. Nishal lost his game. We won't worry about it. Moving Hoax has also won. Moving Hoax is, of course, Felix from our Select Chess program, winning his game. But let's stick with a game here. Jumping back to Aaron Grabinsky on board 1. What's going on here? Oh no, bad things are going on here. What happens? What on earth happened? So, yeah, this is just some tactics gone wrong, I think. Some tactics gone wrong. So, in this position, I was pausing and I was talking a lot about the move rook c2. I thought Aaron should play rook c2, get this bishop to e3, and get his king safe. And I am going to have to stand by that assessment. Because what happened in the game after rook c7, rook d3, knight e5, well, this rook comes into d2, and after this nice move by black, rook d8, things seem to be crumbling apart at the seams, just falling apart at the seams. If you take this bishop here, sorry, I guess I can't quite make moves on the board. If you take the bishop on g4, I think you're going to get met with some checkmating threats. I haven't quite worked out the exact checkmate yet, but I imagine it starts with the check, king e4, another check, king e5, and from there it's honestly tough for me to calculate. But what's going on? So knight takes g4. Gosh, I don't even know. Perhaps even you could just play a simple takes on g4 and then... Okay, wait. Okay, I do know. Rook e2 after king e5 and then rook d6 is the simple checkmate. Finally got there in the end. So if you take this bishop on g4, just to give you the full line, you get met with rook 8 to d3, king e4, f5 check, king e5, rook e2 check, king f6, rook d6 with checkmate. So that bishop is untouchable after this nice move by Webkins, and this is just death for Aaron. Now imagine instead if Aaron had played the move rook to c2. If rook c2 had come on the board, then there's none of this garbage on the second rank. You can play knight e5 with a good conscience and play this bishop out to e3 and just stick with a solid position. Sometimes that's what you need to do, and I think that's what needed to be played here, rather than this craziness that Aaron went for. Unfortunate, and now I think he's simply in a losing endgame, and it's going to be tough for Aaron here, but maybe he can try to hold on to this one. He's looking to get rid of the remainder of black's pawns, and if he succeeds in that, well, it's nothing more than a draw with rook and knight against two rooks. So yeah, Dorsa has also found the line that I found. Wow, rook takes f4 is not what I expected. I expected black to try to hold on to this pawn, or at least hold on to this pawn. Put on a little more pressure here. Aaron now is looking to solve all of his problems by taking off this remaining pawn with knight c6. Is this just a draw now? I think this is just a draw. This just looks like a draw to me. the black king is kind of pinned in on the first rank, and I think Aaron is somehow saving this game. Well done to Aaron. If a move like king f8, I think probably just simply knight back to g6 is going to come. And if you try to break free with stuff like king e8, well, let's see. Maybe you get met with knight e5. So I'm expecting knight g6 check, king e8, and then back to knight e5. And there's just going to be too many threats on this king for black to be able to hold on to the a pawn. So if the a pawn falls, just to draw an endgame. I think black really let something slip here. Black really let something slip. And note, of course, the king cannot step off of the 8th rank here. Otherwise, knight c6 comes with check, and Aaron simply picks up this pawn. Or does he? Now I'm confusing myself. Let's see. Okay, so yeah, knight c6 check. The king would have to move again. And then the accurate move, king c5, would have to come on the board. And then this pawn is simply falling. No way to defend it. So instead, king f8, and Aaron's taking his time here, but I really think that this is just going to be a dead draw. Well done to Aaron, holding on in that tough position. In the meantime, we seem to have won one more game. Let's keep an eye on it. It looks like... Have we won one more game? I'm not totally sure. Oh, wow. Wolf team has actually won her second game. This is Rachael. I keep forgetting. Rachael won her second game against the International Master. Wow, you hate to see it for the San Francisco Mechanics. Rachael Lee just taking out the International Master at every opportunity. Looks like this game was a QGD exchange. Rachael simply gets her pieces into the game, breaks with c5, doesn't flinch at all this garbage that white is trying to do with h3 and g4. White queenside castles, but now the simple takes on d4, and knight e4. This is a killer knight shoving its way into the position, blocking out all of these white pieces. And there's not much that white can do about it. King b1 was played in the game, but now rook c8 is killer on this open file against the queen. And white is really getting punished for his impunity here. Queenside castling and just pushing on the king side, but Rachael playing it very accurately. And wow, the nice move e3 hits the rook on h1. And advances the pawn, opening up this bishop, getting it into the game. Rook hg1 is met with takes on f2, queen takes f2, and now knight takes e5. This is crazy. Let's get Rachael Lee on the archbishops. Why isn't Rachael Lee on the archbishops? Turn off the engine? Okay. Queen e8, and my goodness, this is crazy stuff from Rachael. Bishop c5, and she just picks up this pawn, and chess is just easy, huh? Chess is just easy when you're a prodigy, I guess. Chess is just easy. Yeah, rook takes c3, queen c5, resigns. Chess is easy. Why are you even trying? Of course, you can't take this rook due to queen takes c3 when this rook falls on e1, and Rachael just destroying this International Master like it's nothing. Rachael for the archbishops 2021. You heard it here first. Okay, so Rachael just totally dominating her opponent. Jumping back to Aaron's endgame, I want to check this out, see what he's doing here. I think things are still going well for him. Probably this knight belongs back on this e5 square, and I think things are going to be okay. Things are going to be okay. It looks scary out there, Aaron, but things are going to be okay. It's going to work out for you. I feel good. I feel good. Like I said, you just need to get this knight into the game and put some pressure on both this king and this pawn. He's taking his time here, but I really think knight e5 is the way to go. I'm not sure what else you can really even play here. Okay, knight e7, I mean, it's the same idea. You just need to get this knight to c6. What's her rating? Every time I check her rating, it's gone up another 100 points. Last I saw, she was like 2150 or something. I'm sure she's 2400 by now. Don't ask me. Doris is laughing out there. Maybe she knows. But for a while there, I would like look up her rating every month just for fun, and it would go up 100 points. She's ridiculous. It's stupid. Okay. So, again, knight c6. This is an interesting endgame. Aaron really holding on here. He has to make threats against this king, otherwise it's just dead lost. If he can take off this pawn, it is a draw, but that is a big if. So good luck to Aaron. In the meantime, of course, we managed to win another game. The score is now 7-1. We won 2 games. Oh my goodness. Crazy. Vinny won his game. Go Vinny. Vinny, another member of the Select Chess program, has won his game for us. Let's check out how Doug Eckert is doing. We have not checked in on Doug yet today. I went over one of his games for my class, one of the St. Louis Legends, as I have deemed their name to be. And it looks like he has a pretty nice position against his opponent here. Let me look up who his opponent is. Who is Sterling? Looks like Isaac Sterling, who is not the strongest player, USCF, but putting up a good fight here against Doug. Unfortunately for Isaac Sterling, it looks like this d6 square is under quite a bit of pressure. So queen e7 goes after the g5 pawn, but is it enough? This is actually a really interesting position here. I like what Doug has done. He's taken control of the d file, and in particular this d6 square. But it's just a question now of if he can turn it into something concrete. Right now, there's tactical variations, including bishop takes e5 available to him, which definitely deserve some thought. I'm not sure exactly how it's all going to work out here. Even knight takes e5 could be considered with this rook d7 idea to follow, but I think I really like Doug's position. I think this should go well for him. 20 players per team. 20 players per team, and we've already won 7 games. It's first to 20.5 to win the match. And right now, of course, as you can hopefully see on your screen, it is a solid 7-1. Solid 7-1. Rook b5 check. Okay, so someone seems to have found a win in Aaron Grabinsky's game. Why don't we take a look here? In the meantime, it looks as though Justus Williams has actually won his game. That's not what I was expecting. Someone says rook b5 check and the knight is falling. You caught me. So yeah, if knight e5, then rook b5 check would be hitting this knight. And if king d6, there is this annoying move of rook to d4 check to kind of put you out of the game. So well done finding that tactic that I missed. Although, wait a second. Does it even lose the game? I'm not sure, because king e6, then if rook e4, there's this move again, and I'm threatening checkmate. I'm not sure knight e5 lost the knight, but I did not see rook b5 check. So knight e7 is still coming with threats to the king. But yeah, knight e5, rook b5 check, king d4, king d6, rook d4, king e6, rook e4, king d6. I'm not sure if the knight's falling there, but Aaron does go for this instead. The game continued, king e8, knight c6, as expected. And now, after rook a1, Aaron is trying to find a way to take off this pawn. You obviously can't do it immediately, because rook b5 check comes through in the end. But can you play this nice move, king e6 now, and get a draw with threats to the king? That is the question here. I really like this move, king e6, and I think it's definitely what Aaron needs to go for. So he goes for it. I imagine the only winning try now is to give this check and force knight e5. But if you don't, simply rook takes a5 is going to come on the board. So we see rook e1. Now knight e5 might be good. And so yeah, king d6 instead. Okay, this is simpler, keeping up pressure here. But yeah, now wait a second. That was not simpler. Now a4. What's going on? Nobody knows. Okay, king f8 must be played. I don't see anything else. So king f8. And now, what is happening? I don't like this move, king d6. Why was king d6 played? You had to play knight e5 here, I think. You had to play knight e5. Now knight d7 check. Okay, so the king is still pinned to the back rank. And this is the draw. He found it. He found the draw. He did it. King d6 found the draw. Aaron saw more than I did. If the king dares step to the 7th rank, knight c5 check comes on the board, and the a-pawn falls. If the king steps to e8, well, there's knight f6 check. Can't go this way due to checkmate, so the king steps back to f8 when knight d7 repeats. Same deal if you go to g8, knight f6 check. Can't go to h8 because rook h7 is a checkmate, so back to f8 for you, and then knight back to d7. Excellently done from Aaron here. So the best black can do now is play a move like king g7, go for knight c5, king f6, and then rook takes a4, and try to win this rook versus knight endgame, but he really should not be able to do it against the strong Aaron Grabinsky. In the meantime, though, as I mentioned, Justus Williams actually managed to win his first game here. I very much didn't like his position that we saw earlier on here. Yeah, in this position, I thought g5 and black really had no problems. h4 was Justus's try to cause some complications. But what's this? Was rook f4 not... Rook f4 wasn't played due to e6 hanging. Interesting. I might have considered the move rook f4 here anyways, giving up e6. Instead, simply rook c to f8 puts pressure on f2, but now g5 falls. If you wanted to play rook f8, why not include the move takes on h4? That would have been much better, just preserving this h-pawn. No need to give up the pawn like this. So I think this move, rook f8, is really where black went wrong here. Now white is getting active and coming at black with a force. So yeah, rook h3, there's open files now, and this king is going to end up a little bit weak. g4, and rook h8 tactically defends this pawn due to some threats. Queen d4, though, centralizes. Rook over to the h file. And, well, f4. I still like black. And takes... What's happening? How did white win this game? e3? What is that move? What is e3? What is happening? Threatening checkmate. Oh my gosh. This is chess at its most obscene. Oh, Justus had black. Everything makes sense. Everything makes sense. Black won the game here with this move e3. Okay. The whole entire time I was commentating this game, I thought Justus was white and I thought he was getting killed. But Justus, with the black pieces, winning this game. So I'm not totally crazy. Black did have a very, very good position here with the move g5, and he did manage to convert it. So good job, Justus. I was just wrong about which side Justus had. Okay, funny stuff, but we got there in the end. Good job to Justus William converting that game. It looks like San Francisco has scored their second point of the match. It looks like Aaron Lynn has actually fallen to his opponent, Alejandro Canales, who is a 1700. Unfortunate for Aaron. We also have a draw now, and oh my gosh, draws everywhere. Aaron did get the draw in his game. Julian Proleiko has also drawn his game on this board. We were talking about this game from this position here when I was saying Julian shouldn't go crazy. He should just play normal moves like this, and in fact that's what he did. But it just didn't turn out to be enough in this case. He got his pieces active, but some pieces come off the board. He wins a pawn, but wasn't able to win the game. Some crazy stuff is happening now. And we see this trade come on the board and going after the king. But in the end, as we all know, all rook endgames are drawn. So that's real tough. All endgames are drawn. Isn't Justus? Yeah, Justus had black. I got everything wrong. It's all my fault. I'm sorry. Okay. So good draw from Julian. Other results, Chess Playing Wolf, Danny Machuca has actually drawn his game against Kyron Griffith, who is, of course, a very strong player. Kyron is 2470 USCF. Danny, only a 1900, managed to draw. Good for Danny, drawing with the white pieces here in a tough-looking endgame. All right, let's see how this went. It was a Trumpowski, and it was 69 moves long. That's a long chess game, for Rapid especially. Danny looks to have gotten the central advantage and simplified a little bit and just played good solid chess, taking on d4, blockading this pawn, expanding in the center, getting active once again. Some trouble now around his king, but he managed to navigate the problems, trading off, getting his king in, taking off this pawn, and getting into this rook endgame, which he managed to draw. Wow, that's impressive stuff from Danny against such a strong opponent. So that's a big draw for the Archbishops. That was one of the heavily favored matchups for them. And oh my gosh, all the games are ending now. 12.5 to 5.5 in our favor. Now 13.5. So I believe that means almost all of the games are over from round one. Let's check in on Lukey, who is in severe time pressure against Nathan. Nathan F314. What's going on here? It looks like an endgame. F7's attacked. Lukey plays F6. Oh gosh, he's pinned. Queen D5 comes on the board. Now F5 has to be played. F5, very tricky move now. Okay, so we do see takes and a drawn endgame, it looks like. The black king is doing okay now that the rook is off the board, What's this? There's a couple checks to look out for. King g2 is forced, and now queen f3 can come, king h2. And what's going on here? Yeah, the simple queen f4. We might see a repetition from Luke. I would expect to see, though, king h6 and king g5 to play for the win. Okay, he's going in for this endgame now. And now this should just be a dead draw from what I can tell. King g7 has to be played, Luke. Okay, he goes. And white is a little bit faster, actually. But black has the opposition. He needs to play. Oh, no. Is Luke... Oh, Luke's losing. Oh, no. Oh, no. This tension with these pawns on the g-file turns out to be devastating here. And Luke is just dead lost. Unfortunate turn in this king and pawn endgame. That's why you never go into a king and pawn endgame without calculating, everybody. Never go into a king and pawn endgame without calculating. So that one goes to the San Francisco Mechanics. Now I think all the games from the first round are done. In that first round of play, it looks as though, let's see, the score was 6.5 to 12.5. If I'm doing the math correctly. How many games are there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. There's only 19. So let's see. 1, 2, 3. Okay. I think there's only 19 games rather than 20. So I think the final score there was 6.5 to 12.5 in our favor in the first round of play. Now 2 games in the second round are all already finished. Nishal, unfortunately, lost both of his games to his opponent, and Rachael Lee, of course, defeating the International Master, going 2-0, wins her second game as well. Now, in this second round, let's check back in with somebody we haven't seen yet. Let's check back in with the one and only Ben Simon. We saw that he won his first round. How is he faring in this second round with the black pieces? It looks like reasonably well. Ben up just 1 pawn here. Some danger to his king, but he seems to have it under control for the moment. I expect king b6 for black is going to be the move. He does end up playing it. There's no real constructive checks. If you play queen d8, simply king a6, and then you have nothing more than one more check? Maybe there's a few more checks, actually. Something Ben could consider is going a little bit wild and running up the board, but king a6 is the move I expected. Now queen d6 will be met with rook b6, I imagine. But then there's queen a3 check. And maybe somehow white is hoping for perpetual in this position, with the black king struggling to find shelter. Queen a3, maybe king b5 is the way to go. So against king b7, queen e7 is a simple repetition, but I think king b5 to c6 might be the way to go. He chooses king c6 in this position, which is slightly different. I'm not sure I like the way Ben's handling this. It might end up just being a simple draw by repetition here for Ben. Is there a chance that the chess club might hold some Rapid or Blitz online tournaments in the near future for club members? Actually, I would expect to see that, Alexi. Definitely, that's been in the works. I think we're looking to do that type of stuff more on Lee Chess, if you're familiar. We have the St. Louis Chess Club quote-unquote team. We've been kind of test running some staff tournaments, and they've been going really well. So hopefully we end up opening one up to just club members. But yeah, definitely stuff like that in the works. Ben still trying to evade these checks here. We'll leave him to it. In the meantime, who do we want to look at? Note, Doug did end up winning his game that we liked his position in. Let's check out Arjun, who won his first game as well. Arjun is the other youngster that I am terrified of. Arjun and Rachael Lee are both incredible chess players that are going to go far in this world, I really think. So those are 2 to look out for. He crushed his opponent in round 1, I imagine. We don't even have to look. And now in this round 2, he seems to have a really good position from what looks like maybe a Slav type of... No, it was a Caro. From a Caro. Let's see how we got here. Looks like an exchange Caro. He chooses a pretty conservative line where he just defends his d-pawn and develops his pieces. He brings this knight around to e3. This is a nice move, g3, just to stunt these pieces. And now he takes off black's light squared bishop. So with his unopposed bishop, he's looking to make inroads on the light squares. Black, playing very naturally, expanding with b4. And once again, I got everything wrong. Arjun has the black pieces. Okay. So, Arjun expanding very naturally with b4. I like his position. He goes ahead and takes. Now bishop b4 takes off a key defender. And what's going on here? Well, this pawn looks like it's hanging. This pawn does look like it's hanging. If I'm Arjun, I am taking this pawn for free, saying thank you very much. I will take your a pawn next and win this game. So great job by Arjun here. I think Arjun's just simply winning a pawn with a very nice position, and he should be winning this game. I expect nothing less from the up-and-comers here in St. Louis. I expect nothing less. We'll leave Arjun with his great position. Why don't we check back in on Jonathan, who managed to upset his opponent, FIDE Master Josiah Stearman, in the first round. Here, it looks like Jonathan, once again, in a perfectly fine position. It should not be anything more than a draw for white, but it should definitely be a draw. Don't think there's any way for white to escape these checks, but up a pawn, you can't really ask for too much more here. Jonathan should be getting a draw. 1.5 out of 2 against Josiah. Well done to Jonathan. Well done to Jonathan, to be sure. Although, it looks like San Francisco managed to win another game somewhere along the line. What happened? It looks like Aaron, unfortunately, fell once again in the second round to his opponent. We won't look at that game. We only look at the wins. You knew right from the start that I would get all the names wrong. Well, I'm doing my best over here. There's a lot going on. 20 games is a lot to try to follow. Okay. So good stuff from Jonathan. Things seem to be going well at every board I click on. So I'm hoping this match ends up in our favor. All right, let's check back in on the key board 1 game of Aaron Grabinsky. It looks like Aaron is completely winning in this position. His king is perfectly safe in this nice structure with f2, g3, and h4. This queen can guard the f2 pawn from afar, and these connected passers on the queen side are going to be the story of the game. This is just devastating by white, and once again, I've got the names wrong. Aaron has black. Aaron's getting crushed here. He's going to lose this game. Now, I've thought that before, but you know, Aaron, he's a swindler if there ever was one. I'll say that about him. He comes up with chances that I would never think existed, and he'll have to do a miracle here to stop these passed pawns on the queen side. If I'm Aaron, I'm looking for ways to get at this king now. Looking for any way I can to shake loose this queen's connection with this f-pawn and trying to just get at this king any way I can. That's the only way Aaron's going to be able to hold on to this game. I don't see a way for it to work out for him, but Aaron looking to swindle here, in some trouble. All right, let's check out Justus Williams' position here. Hopefully I'm looking at the right side here. Yes, finally I am. Justus with the white pieces. Okay, and what's going on here? This looks like a very complex type of structure. What opening did this come out of? It came out of the English. An opening well known for complicated structures, I imagine. And once again, I think I have to say I like Justus's position. Queen a6, and I think the winning plan now for Justus is going to be to play a4 and a5. That is going to break down this structure on the queen side and create a passed pawn for Justus, and with that passed pawn, he should be able to win the game. Now, if black is going to have any chance at all, I think Natalia is her name, she's going to have to break open things on the king side or in the center. So she has to do that immediately, otherwise a4 and a5 is just devastating. This is going to be how Justus wins the game. Now with this knight vacating, Justus can also consider moves like rook c6, but I don't see any reason not to continue with plan A here. a4, a5. Perhaps knight d6 is black's idea, but I don't think it's severe enough. Even if you play knight d6, I'll continue with a5. You can take my pawn, I'll trade, take b6, and rook c6, and it's just devastating. It's just devastating. Storm wants my advice for improvement at the 900 level. My advice is pretty similar to Dorsey's. I always tell people, try really hard. Try really hard in all your chess games. That means giving it the utmost focus that you absolutely can, trying your best, calculating, thinking about each and every move, and after your games, going back, analyzing those games, looking for mistakes. That's the key to getting better at chess. It's not just grinding out a ton of games and a ton of tactics half-heartedly. It's giving each and every game your best. You have to try really hard to get better at chess. So that's my advice for you. In the meantime, Justus taking his time here, but I really do expect a4 and a5 to be the way to play. Perhaps he's worried about this move, e5 from black to try to break things open, but I just don't trust it. e5 weakens this d5 pawn, and while it does open up some lines, like I think black has to do, I don't think it's in a favorable manner. I think, yeah, so a4 and a5 is coming. It's coming, and it's coming with a vengeance. Coming with a vengeance. Yeah, knight d6 does happen. I expected just a5 there. Rook c6 is a slightly more conservative way to play it, interfering with the queen's contact on b5, just preparing this a5 move. No reason not to, I suppose, but I thought a5 in the previous position was also perfectly fine. Now, black is really struggling here to find some way to slow this down. Perhaps my only reservation about playing rook c6 is the move rook c8. If black could play this move, then black would be freeing her position considerably, but I think unfortunately there's a tactic with rook takes d6 if rook c8 were played. So rook c6, accurate chess from Justus, and this is just going to be the end of the line. Nothing to be done for Natalia here. He's just going to crush it. We are the St. Louis Chess Club. Wow. The St. Louis Chess Club, of course. Okay, so a5 by Justus, and I think this game is perfectly in his hands. Rook b8 now. That's not enough to stop me from playing a5. a5 on the board. You cannot capture, otherwise rook takes d6 wins the game, and this is dead lost. Good stuff from Justus. Hopping over now to Julian Proleiko's game. I do want to mention we're up to 15 points now, and originally the match was supposed to have 20 players. I believe only 19 showed up for the match. So the magic number is 19.5. If we get to 19.5 points, the match is ours. In this game, Julian seems to be doing very, very, very well. There's so much pressure against this white king, and I don't see any compensation that white has in exchange for it. King h1 or king h2 I think has to be played now, and already Julian has tempting options such as rook takes g2, cashing in for this queen. I don't think that's the best he can do, though. I think he should hold out for a little bit more than that and look for better. King h2 has to be played. There's really nothing else to be done here. And from there, I'm just trying to find some way for Julian to keep the pressure. He could just play some normal-looking move, but what normal-looking move should that be? Julian, I'm sure, is looking for a knockout blow here. This is the type of position where there's something has to give. You know what I mean? Something has to give here. White has allowed black too much in this position, but I don't see it just yet. Perhaps the way to go is doing something with this c-pawn. I don't like leaving this c-pawn just out and about here. And from there, I want to play queen d8 and bishop h4. This is something that's going to create some nasty threats around the white king. If I can achieve this, then I think the game is kind of in Julian's grasp. But what to do about the c-pawn? It's not so easy. Yeah, so Akarsh, the problem with knight h4 is I think you're just allowing white to get away with capturing on g3 here. If white can get these two rooks for the queen, I think white's very happy about that. Very, very happy about that. I do want to note, white is technically up a pawn here, and that's likely the compensation that white's hoping for, but I just don't think it's enough. So Julian chooses c4, and this is how he resolves the tension with the c-pawn. And now that this tension is resolved, I expect to find him playing moves like queen d8, moves to get more pieces into the game. You could even consider forming the classic Alekine's gun with rook g6 and queen to g8, just putting the maximum amount of pressure on this g2 pawn here. And then moves like knight h4 can come on the board with this rook having a little bit more support. So c4 from Julian is how he starts. Okay, so bishop e1, I think, is just losing the game. That's a free knight. Gotta move the knight when the knight is attacked. I don't understand. I don't understand. I don't get it. Free knight, Julian's gonna win the game. Next, let's check back in on Danny Machuca. Danny had a huge upset in round 1 against his opponent, FIDE Master Kyron Griffith, who is over 2400 USCF. Very strong player. Danny Machuca, a 1900 USCF player, managed to draw in round 1, and it looks like he is holding on for dear life in this position, although both players are. Material seems to be equal for the moment. White's king stuck in the center. In the meantime, Black's king also stuck, not in the center, but on the h8 square, stuck in the corner. So White is going to look to get at that king and get his own king safe. With this check, wow, so king f2, this allows Danny the opportunity to not take on d4, because it takes back with a check. But now a simple queen c7 move, I expect, and then things like queen c5 are going to be what Danny Machuca is looking for here in order to consolidate a little bit. I definitely prefer the white pieces in this case, but I think Danny is doing an admirable job of holding on to this position. A very admirable job. Great Wolf wants me to help him understand. I don't know. Sometimes people hang pieces. It's just the way of the world. So knight e4 is forcing Danny's hand here with this bishop. This move seems like a good chess move. I hate to say it, but this one seems like a winner. d6 is also attacked. Maybe you can try rook e6 to hold on. Rook e6 seems like it might be holding for the moment, but it just feels so shaky. It feels so shaky. The knight takes f6 is going to come. Although, actually, okay, maybe bishop g7. Maybe bishop g7 here for Danny is going to be the move. You could also consider taking on d4 and meeting queen takes d4 check with rook g7. It feels very, very loose, and that pin is going to be very awkward and difficult to break. But I don't see the knockout yet for White. As long as I don't see the knockout, I'm going to hold out hope for Danny. I think Danny still has some chances here. Bishop takes h4 wasn't mate. Bishop takes h4 was unfortunately illegal due to this pin. This is a strong pin. Strong pin by Kyron here. So Danny is taking his time here. I think the move bishop g7 is more or less the best he can do. You could also consider queen d8 maybe, but you lose this pawn. You hate to lose that pawn. You really hate to see it, and it's not going to be pretty. I think it's got to be bishop g7 here. What else can be done? You could go perhaps a little bit crazy and try sacrificing this exchange here, but it's not going to be anywhere near enough. Not going to be anywhere near enough. Okay, so Danny taking his time. Tough position there for him. Hopping back to the scoreboard here. Looks like we're up to 17 points. We need 1.5 more points to win the match. 1.5 more points to win the entire match. Some other results that have come onto the board. Wolf Team 2018 won both of his games. Jumping down, looks like Jacob Sanders has rejoined us. He has won both of his games. Why don't we take a look at his second win here against Daniel Perlov. This was a game in the Dutch Stonewall. Jacob plants this knight on e4. This is the key square in the Stonewall, and takes back with the f-pawn, opening the f-file for his pieces. And now he activates the pieces and just wins a piece on the b-file. From there, the rest looked to be fairly smooth sailing. Just crushing Daniel. Good job to Jacob, bringing home 2 points for us. Other notable results, Ben Simon did end up drawing his second game. Well done to Ben, scoring 1.5. Chess World Scientist, of course, Chess World Scientist is a Raja, local kid in the Select Chess program, managed to battle back, losing his first round, but defeating his opponent, JRC chess player, in round 2, with a checkmate nonetheless. Good job to Raja. Okay, other notable results. Let's see, Vinny's still playing. Vinny still moving hooks, managed to draw in the second round, bringing us all the more closer to that win. Let's check back in on Vinny. Vinny's been playing a while here. He's down to 52 seconds. Severe time pressure for Danny, whose opponent has 10 minutes left on the clock. Looks like his opponent in this case is Rachael Stare, who is 1500 USCF. And what's going on in this position? Wow. Okay. Vinny has a bishop on g7. Now, if that were a queen, this game would have ended, but it's not. So some work still to be done by Vinny. Comes up with this move, rook e to d1. He's baiting his opponent into capturing on c1, when queen takes c1 is going to be devastating, with this queen just invading on the dark squares. So this is kind of the name of the game here for Vinny. If he can get this queen to h6, the game is over. If he cannot, oh my gosh, all right. His opponent has taken. I think this is a terrible, terrible move. This just looks like checkmate now. This game is over. Vinny is going to win. Vinny going 2-0 for the St. Louis team. I love it. I love it. Queen h6, unstoppable. Queen h8, unstoppable. That game is over. Well done to Vinny. That brings us to 18. We needed a half point to win the game. We need a half point. This game, but with Julian, had caught my eye. Let's check back in here. This was one I really saw going his way. He won this piece on d3, simply consolidated now. He offers some trades and looks to protect his king, looks to get active, and this game is just going to be dead lost for white. Checking back in here, what is going on in the current position? Julian snatched off an a pawn. He still has this pressure on the g file, but now his queen is over here on the queen side, creating threats on both sides of the board. The piece that doesn't make a good impression is unfortunately this knight on d7, so look to expect Julian to improve this knight one way or another, trying to find any way to get this knight into the game. Maybe knight b6 here is worth considering. Threatening to take on c4, so I would expect c5, but now this knight can actually come back to c8, up to e7, and up to c6, and that is how you get your knight in the game. Julian chooses knight d7 instead. I actually don't like this move quite as much. b4, expect queen b5. You just want to cement this pawn on this square. But now, like this knight, it's tougher to get it to c6, so I don't really like this move. I like to knight c8 a little bit better. Not that it matters, Julian's just up a piece here, and of course is easily winning this game. Other than that, maybe the move queen c4 was also worth considering, but yeah, just expect him to get this knight into c6, and this game is going to be over. Rook a2, just expect to see a6 now, blocking off any threats. If rook a5, well, that means queen e2, and you're getting yourself into a world of hurt, an entire world, a planet of hurt. If the move rook g2, knight h4, devastating stuff. So simply a6 here from Julian is a game ender. It's a game ender. Okay, in the meantime, we still haven't hit that magical number just yet. Haven't hit the magical number yet. Checking back in on Vinny, I expect his game to be over very, very soon. Yeah, black tried g5. This queen gets in anyways. It's still just checkmate. Checking back in on another player. Oh, it looks like Arjun actually lost that game. Unfortunate. Expected Arjun to pull that one out. And we have gotten 18 points now. Cupcake! Cupcake! Cupcake won! Cupcake! The game, the match ender. Cupcake, of course, is Isabel playing for us. 1399 rated USCF. Manages to take down her opponent here on one of the lower boards. And wow, this looks to have been quite the game. It looks like Isabel just set off some bombs in front of this black king, taking off every bit of shelter, leaving no pawns remaining. And from there, managed to find a nice checkmate using both the rooks. Rook c1, rook c2, rook h2. That's a rook lift if I've ever seen one. And that is checkmate. We've officially tied the match. Another half point means we win, and Vinny has mate and 2 on his board. This match is over. Vinny has won. That's 19 points. We win the game. We win the match. San Francisco goes down, just like I knew they would. Punching them down. Destroyed, demoralized. San Francisco should have known better than to challenge the St. Louis Chess Club. All right, let's check back in because the match isn't over yet. Losing my voice here, I'm shouting so much. Justus still with a good position in this game. Last we checked in, he had just broken through with this A5 move, and I was just talking up how well he had played, breaking through on this queen side. And now he is the one with the extra passed pawn, and that should be enough to win the game. We see him pushing this pawn up the board. And in this position, unless Black is making immediate threats, expect to see White push this B pawn on every turn. Here, I don't see a threat, so I expect to see the move B6 come on the board. What else to do? And there it is. As I say it, he plays it. I am so embarrassed to be in San Francisco right now. You should be, Great Wolf, although you're in our chat, so we'll call you a St. Louisan nonetheless. St. Louisan, you know, not in reality, but in spirit. In spirit. Thank you, Tsuba. Thank you for the congratulations. All right, E4, yeah, Queen C7 now would take off the queens. B7 is just promoting multiple ways to win this game. If I'm Justus, I play the move Queen C7 here just to eliminate any chance of an attack on my king, and this pawn just promotes by force, and that is that. That is that. So he plays B7. This also totally winning. There's nothing for Black to do to get at the White king, even with the queen on the board. And this is just going to be a promotion. Isn't Great Wolf Danny Machuca? No, Danny Machuca is chess playing wolf. Easily confused for Great Wolf. No, Great Wolf? Is Great Wolf Danny? There's so many wolves. There's also like Wolf Team 2018, which is Rachael. Chess playing wolf is Danny. Yeah, see, look, I know what I'm talking about. Dennis in the chat. Queen C7, Knight D5, well then I take this and I push this, and then I win. But this one works as well. Queen E5 means Queen D7. Okay. And now we just, one square to go. One square to go, little buddy. Just go. One more square. You can do it. One more square. Queen C8 and promotion should be good enough for me. I don't see the threat to the White king, if I'm 100% honest. Queen C8, if Black dares to take on E2, I think I simply promote, not recapturing. Then any check to my king, I have Bishop F3 in response, and this game is over. So Queen C8, B8, queens is the end of the game. Justus taking his time, just being absolutely certain that there's nothing here for Black. If you push this, then Knight C6. I'm not sure which line Maddie is talking about, to be honest. Okay, he's talking about Queen C7. So Queen C7, Knight D5, I just take here, and then, okay, you're taking back with the knight, I push here. You're saying Knight C6, I go here, Knight B8. I mean, sure, that it's a lost endgame. I can go Bishop B4 if nothing else, and I'm winning a full piece, but it's fine. Yeah, we've officially won the match. Officially won the match. I think there were only 19 games rather than the 20 that were supposed to be, so we are well over the 18.5 mark. You heard me celebrating earlier. Cupcake got us to 18. I'm not sure who got us the last half point. It doesn't really matter. But in the end, that is the game. Oh no, Vinny did it for us. I remember. Vinny brought us to 19. Vinny, the match winner. Go Vinny. In the meantime, we've gotten one more point on Julian's board. We expected Julian to win. Of course, he was just up this full piece. And then, wow, the tactic that I mentioned earlier was actually the game ender. Rook G2, Knight H4 came onto the board. How did I see it coming? I don't know. Sometimes lucky. In the meantime, Justus A couple more moves have been played. He chose bishop takes g5. Fair enough. And now bishop f4. And okay. Black gets to queen, but black loses the king. So it's a bit of a trade-off. Oh, equals knight check. Natalia found the best move. Checking the white king one more time before ending the game. We love a good under promotion spite check. Okay, so Justus winning that game as well. Aaron, unfortunately, did end up losing his game, as I expected. I've been avoiding that game because it looked terrifying. Let's check back in on Danny. Danny's game here against Kyron Griffith. So I was expecting Danny to be in a little bit of trouble here. What did he end up doing? Oh no, he played rook e6. Oh, you can't let this knight take this bishop on f6. You need that bishop to guard the dark squares. This has to be dead lost now. Nothing to be done. Yeah, Danny's going to lose this one. If you guys ever find yourself in this type of position, just know, if your king is stuck in the corner like this, you need this bishop here. And if this bishop is dying, you have to make sure this bishop's trading itself off for the other dark squared bishop. If you allow knight takes bishop here, you are just absolutely dead. This bishop is never going to leave you alone, and you are going to be dead, lost. Unfortunate for Danny. That's why I was suggesting here. I think Danny had to play the move bishop g7, giving up this pawn on d6. Just go down the pawn, keep your king safe. This is devastating, and it's such a sad way to lose a chess game, too. Such a sad way to lose a chess game. Oh, I'm so sad about it. I'm so sad. This looks so sad. We're going to ignore this game. This game doesn't exist. Let's check in on Thalia. Thalia put in a lot of work for the St. Louis Chess Club today, streaming for quite a few hours here on the Twitch channel. What does she have in this position? It looks like she has a trapped bishop. That's not good. No, that bishop's just trapped. That bishop is just trapped. That's unfortunate. Who is her opponent? She seems to be playing, if I can find it here, Abhinav. Abhinav, a 2060 USCF player. Seems to be pretty strong in rapid, though. Okay, but no, Thalia was up a piece to begin with, so things are all right here. Things are all right. Black has to retake the piece now. It's now or never. It's take it now or be down a piece. Forever hold your down a piece. I don't know. Pawns are hard. So I expect b takes a4. He's probably considering to take back the c pawn and go for these connected pass pawns, but against the bishops, it's just far too little. So I expect b takes a4, and then I think Thalia actually has a nice position. c5 is going to come on the board, and then Thalia will retake on a4. It looks like Thalia is up a pawn in the counts, and more importantly, she has this nice passed pawn on c5. And that's going to tell the story of the game, I think. With this pawn on c5, Thalia should be able to push for the win without too much danger. Yeah, we did already win. We're just going for extra points here. Just going for the extra points. Okay, so if we take on a4, knight e3, but simply rook f2 is fine for white. I think she is perfectly safe here. If rook b1, expect rook e2 to keep the balance here, and then king f2 is perfectly safe, stepping out of this pin and bringing the pieces to relative safety. King f2, pretty much unstoppable on the next turn. Then once again, it's all about this c-pawn, and Thalia should be able to win this game. Let's check back in with Luke Yi, who lost a devastating game in severe time pressure last game. Stepped into a king and pawn endgame that ended up to just barely be losing. Just barely. Here it looks like he has a very strong position against Nathan with this strong knight on e6, pressure on the black king, protected pass pawn on c5, up a pawn, more active pieces, and a safer king. That's a good recipe to win a chess game. So I expect Luke Yi to make the most out of this one and take down his opponent. Now, last game he got into some time pressure, and that seems to be his downfall here in this game as well. If black can find some way to put pressure on the clock, then Luke Yi might fall into some danger. For the moment, though, things going all right. Expect to see Luke lift this rook, lift this queen, lift this rook, lift this rook, and then checkmate somehow. It's one of those checkmate somehow positions. I don't know. They make tactics puzzles for this. You don't need me to tell you. All right, Jacob wants me to look at his first game. Why don't we take a quick pause to do so? It looks like it was a King's Indian defense. He chooses bishop g5, and now d5. This is switching to Benoni type stuff. This seems perfectly fine for white so far. E4. Yeah, okay, I'm fine with e4. Takes, castles. Now knight f3. Interesting. It looks like white might actually be in a fair bit of trouble here. He found some way to navigate out of it, though. What went wrong is the question. There were some moves that kind of caught my eye. I'm not super familiar with this bishop g5 line. It's not something I would play personally. I like just taking the whole center. But here, queen c2 seems normal. e4 is a pretty tricky move to be playing. Pretty tricky move to be playing. And after f4, I think this is where it all went wrong. You don't really want to open up the opponent's bishop in that manner. You can play moves like bishop g4 here to get your bishop in the game. You want to trade off for this light squared bishop perhaps. You're not really afraid of f takes g. You'll just play f takes g yourself. You can queenside castle and just go for an attack. I think this is the move that made everything go wrong. Opening up the opponent's bishop like this is terrifying. You also give him a really great square on e5. So Jacob, don't take on f4 in those kinds of positions. That's my advice for you. Okay. In the meantime, Thalia is still playing, Luki is still playing. Who else is still playing? Doug is still playing. Let's check back in on Doug. Doug seems to have a nice time edge here. Let me flip the board. And what's going on in this position? Doug is not up any material, but he does have this advantage on the clock, and I think he has an advantage in piece activity as well. So the move queen e4 is a check and is playable here. Doug's likely considering it. You wouldn't be able to block with f3 due to this knight hanging, so probably king back to g1 is the best that white can do. And then from there you can start looking for ways to get even further at this king. I would also expect Doug to be thinking about moves like f5 followed by f4. It's kind of all about king safety in these endgames with major pieces on the board. If you can get at the opponent's king, you are definitely in a good spot. So I expect the move f5 now. If you can get f4, start to shake loose this knight, shake loose this e2 pawn, and shake loose this file in front of the opponent's king, you're going to have some very nice winning chances. The move sound is a bit loud. I apologize. I don't know if I can turn it down. I'm going to do some stuff on the fly here. Wish me luck. Wish me luck. I'm opening the volume mixer. That's not going to do it. I know what I should do. Here I go. Desktop audio, turning it way down. Way down. How is this? How is this? How is this sound? Is this better? Hopefully that's better. Okay, so Doug gave this check. Like I said, I'm expecting the move f5 now from Doug. Now, Doug's a very methodical player, a player who takes his time, makes sure he gets things right, and I appreciate that. Something else Doug might be considering is perhaps going for a capture on c4 in some lines. I don't like it immediately. And yeah, he does play my move now, f5, and once again, f4 is the threat. Now, rook d1, this is allowing I think just the simple b takes c4 here. This knight cannot move, or else knight f3 check and rook takes d1 comes on the board. So that's a free pawn on c4 for Doug if he wants it, and I expect he wants it. I mean, I want it. Who doesn't want it? Give me that free pawn. Free pawn is free, and Doug takes it. Now queen d2, what is this? What is this? c3 if nothing else, just c3. c3 is crushing here. I think this is a faulty tactic. If you take here, takes here, takes. Maybe that's winning, but c3 just looks so crushing. It looks so crushing and soul crushing. c3 crushes souls. It's a soul crusher. Doug needs to pick up the pace a little bit. He finds c3. I love it. I love it so much. That's the type of move that makes you want to quit chess if you're Sterling here. Yeah, queen c1, simply knight takes e2, check, and a fork, and that's the game. Sterling resigns. Good game to Doug. He goes 2-0 in the match. Also, notably, we have a few people who went 2-0, but let's check in on the remaining games. We're down to those few games that I had mentioned. Danny Machuca is somehow still holding on. Danny Machuca is holding on when... okay, all hope is now officially gone. Kyron is just checkmating this king. Danny Machuca falls in the final moments. Alright, that just leaves Thalia and, let's see, Thalia and Luke Yi, both of which have very good positions, both of which I expect to be able to convert. Thalia has this extra c-pawn and is trying to find some way to make use of it. I think the trick here is to now start playing on the other side of the board. Expect her to play moves like h4 and rook h3. Yeah, g4 as well. You need to create a threat on the other side of the board to get things going. So she's actually just bringing the rook around. This also is a way to get active. I would have liked to see a move like bishop e1, and then a move like h4, and a move like rook h3. That's, I think, the way to go. So she's just playing on the clock a little bit. Wow, now she breaks with f5, trying to get at these black pawns. Okay, she gives this check and steps back. Now e5 for black, you have to take that pawn. Okay, white now has these two passed pawns, but f5 is falling. Now d2 is under threat. This time pressure seems to be getting the best of Thalia. Now rook g5 maybe? Okay, she gives a check. I like it. Okay, wait a second. Now it's starting to smell like checkmate. Yeah, bishop g5 is a check. We can swing this rook around. Okay, she goes this way instead. Now look out, though. Your king is in some danger, Thalia. Your king's in some danger. Oh, no. What's happening here? The rook falls, but the other rook falls. Ah! Okay, c6. She's still trying to promote now. Okay, she's getting on this diagonal. That's good. That's good. Okay, playing on the increment. She's trying to get this rook out of here so she can get this bishop on this diagonal. See, king d3. King steps back now. And it's looking like this might be a draw or a loss now for Thalia, unfortunately. There's this check, but I don't think it's good. Okay, now if you take bishop d8, okay, this is a threat. She's threatening the rook again. Yeah, okay, I think now, yeah, it takes, but now bishop d8. She's winning a piece, but the best she can hope for now is rook and bishop against rook. She has to take off these. Oh, she won the rook! She won the rook! Rook h4. Bishop takes h4. Game over. Good job to Thalia. Crushing her opponent. Crushing her opponent. That just leaves the final game of the match here. Luke Yi. Luke Yi, to round out the match, he seems to have broken through and is now killing Nathan's king. Just killing it. Nothing to be done here. Okay, I guess actually the queen f7 is a move. I didn't think about queen f7. Queen f7, if nothing else, it's a losing endgame. This c-pawn is just too strong. Queen f7, you can even just take, and this endgame is dead lost. Expect rook e6 and rook over to 8-6, and once that pawn falls, it's game, set, and match. Thalia does win that game, of course, up a rook and a bishop. Okay, rook takes f8, now takes on g7. This is mate in 1. Luke Yi does it. Luke Yi wins the game. That brings the final score of the match to a devastating 24-14, a 10-point lead over the Mechanics. We end up winning this match. I want to give a shout out to our notable players. Justus Williams goes 2-0 in his matches. Vampire Chicken upsets Josiah Wales, goes 1.5 out of 2. Danny Machuca manages to draw the strong Kyron Griffith, over 2,400 USCF player. That's a more than 500 point difference, and Danny draws him in round 1. Who else is notable? Let's see here. Wolf Team 2018. I keep forgetting. That's Rachael Lee. Rachael Lee goes 2-0 against an international master. What more can you ask for? Vinny goes 2-0 in his matches and actually scores that crucial 19th point, securing the match victory for us. Well done to Vinny. Doug Eckert also goes 2-0 in his games. Jacob Sanders, 2-0 in his games. Cupcake goes 2-0 as well and secured the tie for us in the match. And the one and only Ben Simon also going 1.5 for 2. A very strong showing from the St. Louis team here, and we take down the San Francisco Mechanics. Well done to St. Louis. All right, that's about it. Nothing left to do but wrap this up. Say thank you to the Mechanics for playing. Of course, I talked a lot of trash in this stream, but we love the opportunity to play some chess in this new age that we live in. It was a lot of fun to commentate. Hopefully you guys had fun watching. And it's great to see St. Louis continuing to dominate the online chess scene. Shang-Chi also went 1-1 against someone 400 points higher rated than him. Good job to Shang-Chi as well. Chess World Scientist, I believe, is his name. So well done to everybody who played as well, even if you didn't win any games. We appreciate you coming out, supporting St. Louis, representing the chess club. Once again, it was a lot of fun. Thank you guys so much for joining us. And be sure to stay tuned tomorrow when we continue to give you guys the best chess content we can. That's all for me tonight. Thank you.